Hey, editing Trent here. Just a quick note before we get started. We just moved into a new apartment and are still trying to figure out the quirks of recording in this space in terms of noise from other sources that aren't us. For about a third of this episode, there was a totally unique event that hasn't happened since, which is a semi-truck pulled up directly outside our window and idled while it loaded a crane onto its back for a very long time. We noticed about halfway through the episode and paused in between games, but there's a long stretch here where you hear some rumbling in the background. It's not noisy enough to where we felt like we needed to redo it, but I just wanted to give you guys a heads up that we're aware that that happened and we're going to try and avoid it in the future. Okay, on with the episode. Do you want to hit us with that intro music?
The sweet, sweet intro music.
Yeah. Hi, my name is Trent, and I uncovered Psychonauts from deep within the recesses of my subconscious.
Oh, hi, my name is Bianca, and I was mixing potions one day, and Armello just poofed into my hands. And I forgot I owned that.
Welcome back to this podcast called I Forgot I Owned That, where we, your two hosts, review our extensive back catalog of video games that we may or may not remember that we own. Yeah. And each week we bring one to talk about that we have never played before. Our hot takes, our vibes, our vibe checks, whatever we're feeling in regards to the game of the week. But before we do that, we like to warm up by talking about the best thing that we saw this week. Bianca, what was the best thing you saw this week?
The best experience I had this week.
Okay.
Well, I mean, in some regards, it was the best experience, I suppose. In some regards, it was not. We moved. This is our first recording in the new place. Mm-hmm. In our office, because we have one of those now.
A very adult feeling.
Very, very
Do you remember
adult.
like being a kid and like going into the office, like your parents' office room was like a special occasion? Like that's where the desktop PC was if you had one?
There was no dedicated office in my house, so
That's fair.
it's that open downstairs room where the computer was, so.
I see.
But I do understand that for being at friends' houses. Their parents always had the office.
That's where you go to. As a child, that was pretty much the putt-putt saves the zoo room. Like where you
What
go.
is that?
Do you remember a couple of weeks ago, or months at this point, where Ryan was playing
Those games.
children's games on
Yes.
Twitch? Yeah, we talked about this. I think that was my best thing in whatever episode that was. That same like maker of games had a series called Putt-Putt. Putt-Putt was a car.
Okay.
And his most infamous and best game in the series was Putt-Putt Saves the Zoo, where Putt-Putt goes to the zoo and he saves it.
Okay. Sure.
And I feel like all of my friends had it, but I didn't. So whenever I would go over as a kid, we'd play Putt-Putt Saves the Zoo.
Excellent. Yeah. But yeah, so that's, the moving itself was in some ways awful and in some ways really great.
I feel like that is always how it goes.
Yeah. But we are now here and pretty much all unpacked, which also feels very nice. And
Yeah, there's like 2 rando boxes in the room we're currently sitting in, and then like one that is pretty much just picture frames we need to deal with at some point.
yeah, and it just feels nice to finally have that part of our lives all done.
Yes. one less thing to worry about for now, at least.
Yeah. What was the best thing that you saw this week?
Best thing I saw this week was the pizza dough that we've been using.
Hell yeah.
So at our local co-op back in, no longer our local co-op, but the one we went to in Chicago, they have a lot of like local, I don't even know if this is a local product, but they do have a lot of like local breads and stuff like that from Chicago. Now I'm checking because I sent a picture of the package to my sister the other week. Do you say you're from
so
Chicago?
good.
I don't know.
This pizza
But there's
dough
this
is so
company
good.
called the Essential Baking Company I mean, it says local artisan pizza dough, but that might just be like buzzword marketing bullshit.
I don't know, man. This pizza dough is artisan compared
It
to the
is
Trader
artisan.
Joe's one.
So it's a frozen pizza dough. It's got no fluff to, like there's no like frilly edges. It's just a blob of pizza dough you buy from the freezer, and you let it thaw and you let it like get to room temp, and then you roll it out. You dress it up real pretty, and then you stick it in the oven real hot for a little bit. And it is the best, like, because I've tried many since college. I've tried many store-bought pre-made pizza doughs because
Yeah.
I like making my own pizza, but I don't care enough to make my own dough.
I'll probably end up doing that at some point.
We should
because
try that.
We own yeast now.
Yes, we
so
should
we
definitely
can do
try
it.
that, but we have not tried that. And I've
Yeah.
made my rounds. The TJ one, the Trader Joe's one was always my favorite.
Yeah.
I've tried like some Pillsbury ones that were okay. I never liked the like hard ones that live in the bread aisle. Like those ones are never very good. But this just fucking wipes the floor with even the Trader Joe's one. It's so good. It puffs up so nice.
The amount of yeastiness, like the effect of the yeast of this dough is kind of insane.
Yeah, like it's better. Like nobody thinks that cheap takeout pizza's that good, like the Domino's and the Papa John's of the world. No one thinks it's that good, but this just so clearly just trashes them.
Yeah.
Like other pizzas that I've had, like pizzas I've made at home with pre-made doughs, are like passable, and they're like, you know, a little bit cheaper than doing those, so it's fine, and you don't have to leave your house. But this is just so clearly better, in addition to also being cheaper and not requiring me to leave my house. Like, I can't even go back. We bought like 4 of them before we left Chicago, just so we had them. We're burning through them because they're just so good.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. No. Yes.
Strong feelings about this.
Solid. So what game are you bringing to the table for this week?
So I think at the end of the last episode, when we said like, oh, here's what we're playing next week, I referred to this as a point and click adventure game. I was very wrong. So this week I played Psychonauts, which is made by Double Fine Studios, was originally released way back in 2005. I thought it was a point and click game because Double Fine makes a lot of point and click games.
Sure.
Not a lot, but is famous for having done some notable point and click games. I thought this was one of those. I might have been thinking of an entirely different game because this is very much not a point and click game. This is very much like one of those old school 3D like platformer action platformer adventure-y kind of things. So other things of the same
Harry Potter.
No. Well, I mean, maybe, but that's not really what I was going for. I was going to be like Spyro the Dragon, or like Jak and Daxter, or Rayman to a certain extent. Like any of the Rayman 2 or Rayman 3, same era. But yeah, so this is not a point and click. This is very much a platformer action game, very much of its time. So the premise of this game is that, I guess first of all, there is a government agency devoted to agents that have psychic powers.
Ooh, okay.
So with that in mind, there is a summer camp that is a training facility for children to develop psychic powers and abilities and to eventually become psychonauts, which are the agents.
Ooh, okay.
So it's like backwoods, like super summer camp vibes, but also like wackadoodle, like psychic ability nonsense.
I feel like I would have absolutely loved this game as like a 10-year-old because I was obsessed with spy shit. And while this isn't spy shit, it gets at that like same itch of like you're an agent and you're training for this like secret stuff, which was all up my alley back then.
I mean, spoiler alert, I think you would still like this game. This is one of this game I've had probably more fun with than any other game I've played for the pod.
Really?
This game's really fun. But we'll get back to that. Yes. So you play as a character called Rasputin Aquato or something like that. So
Okay.
it's this kid who is like a runaway from a family of circus performers.
Hell yeah.
Who like all he wants is to be like a psychonaut. So he ran away to the camp.
Does he have psychic powers?
Yeah.
Okay.
So he ran away to the camp and like kind of broke in, and they're like, well, you can't stay here, but it'll take 3 days for someone to come get you. So his whole deal is you have 3 days to like do everything that someone would usually do in their whatever summer-long training program
Oh,
to
okay.
become a psychonaut before
Wow.
you are taken back to the
Yeah.
circus. So, like I kind of mentioned, it's very much in the same kind of wheelhouse as other 3D like platformers of the age. I already listed a couple, and what I mean by that is you do a lot of like jumping around to platforms and stuff, and you have like abilities, and you unlock different abilities as you go, as you progress through the game. And also there's just a fuck ton of collectibles.
Yes.
So
Yes.
how many? I wrote out all of them, but I didn't actually count. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different kinds of collectibles in this game, which is like too many personally.
a
But
lot.
so there's arrowheads, which are the currency. You dig those
Okay.
up from little shiny purple spots in the ground. The whole gimmick is that the whole camp is built on this like deposit of, I think they call it like Psytanium or something like that, which is like this psychoactive metal.
Ooh,
and
ooh.
these are like shards of it. I don't know. You use those to buy things in the game. Then there's
Great.
also these challenge totems or something like that. They look like a weird floating eye and a bunch of cards.
Okay.
That's only important because you can find the totems, but you can also find just the cards.
Oh, so can you like find pieces to build a whole one?
Exactly. So
Okay.
once you find enough cards, you buy the eye part from the store to build a totem. Those level you up.
all right,
Is the
all
reason you
right.
want to do that. Then there's also artifacts, which are just like objects. Some of them seem to have a use, and some of them don't. Like
Okay.
there's one that was like smelling salt, so that can pull you out of like the mental world levels. We'll get there.
Okay.
Then there's figments, which when you're in the mental world level, like the not real world levels, they're these like floating images, like 2D images that kind of swirl around. And if you get 100 of those, then you also level up. Pretty much, a lot of
okay.
these just contribute to your level.
leveling,
Then
all
there's my two favorite are there's emotional baggage, which in like the mind worlds, you find these tags and you find the matching bag.
Oh my
To
God.
clean up the person's emotional baggage.
Oh my God.
Which is real silly. And then there's the memory vaults, which you have to whack open to like help them deal with deep-seated trauma.
This is amazing.
So goofy. But yeah, so there's all these freaking different collectibles everywhere.
Yeah.
So when you're like in between the more main mission-y things, you can just explore the world of the camp and find all this different stuff. But then when you're on the actual levels, you find these things as you go. So the way it kind of runs is there's the main, like the real world, which is the summer camp. And it's a decent sized map. I don't know. There's lots of weird, like little hidden areas and collectibles and stuff in nooks and crannies. There's lots of fun platforming challenges to get more collectibles. And then you kind of roam that and follow. It's a pretty linear set of quests, but they take you from place to place across the map. And at those quests, you go into these levels, which are the mental worlds. So they're all in a character's mind. So, for example, the first one is this like gruff ex-military agent
Okay.
who like does the crash course for the students. So that like the first mental level is this totally over the top, like comically on the nose, like amalgam of different war movie tropes and like boot camp aesthetics that they put all the kids through. It's really funny. And then there's another one where there's like this really kind of uptight cerebral agent, and so his world is like, because his whole thing is like, you have to clean your mind, you have to like organize it. So his is like a
Sure.
puzzle box that you can walk around.
Oh, that's cool.
And like things slide in and out. It's pretty cool. So the themes are really interesting and really varied. They're always something about the individual character. And I've only done a couple of these, even though I've played probably 6 or so hours. I've only done a handful of these because I've just done a lot of exploring and stuff as I've gone. And in general, outside of just the worlds, the design is really good for this game. It's really fun. But the fucking character models are just whack. Just so whack. Like, the main character, Rasputin, his arms are super disproportionately long, but also like rope thin around the bicep area. Really hard to explain, but so they're super non-realistic character models.
Sure.
Like all the faces are super weird. And it makes it like a little unsettling, but it also helps it to not look dated because like things that are
Sure.
realistic always, show their age a little bit more. But this is
Yeah.
just so out there that I'm like, yeah, I mean, it holds up, I guess.
Yeah.
And on a similar vein, the whole game in general just visually holds up shockingly well for being 15 years old, except it's funny when you hit a pre-rendered cutscene. Like, because everything else has probably been upscaled or something over the years, but the pre-rendered cutscenes are the same. So it all of a sudden looks like you're watching a YouTube video on like 480p or something like that. Like, it doesn't look bad, but you can tell it's kind of compressed and like a little more pixelated. Like, it doesn't look as smooth. But the gameplay looks like the in-game stuff still looks really good. Probably the best part about this game is the writing and voice acting is just awesome. Just so freaking funny, consistently. Like I have 2 quick examples I want to give you. So, in the first area you're in, it's where like the cabins and stuff are. And it's before you go up to the first like crash course with the ex-military guy I described. And you come across a kid who's like peering into this hole in the girls' cabin. He's like,
Ooh.
I'm practicing for later. And you're like, for what? And
What's
he's like,
later?
what? Well, I've seen R-rated movies. I know how it's supposed to go. Have you seen R-rated movies? Like, I'm the expert here. F off. Which is so extra, but then the best part, like, I was like, oh, that's funny. And then later it got even better because you come across, there's a whole lot of weird, like, side characters having teen drama stuff almost, but they're like kids.
Yeah.
So like people are starting to date each other, but don't really know what that means, like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And there's this one girl who you had already met earlier talking about like how she's now dating this one guy. And you come across her later and she says, oh, Nils was peering through a hole in the cabin wall, but when will he look through the hole into my heart? He'll just see himself looking back. Referencing the kid in the cabin. And it's just so silly. And she's talking to this other guy who's just going off in another direction entirely. He's like, I once set someone on fire by looking at them too hard, so they had to put a foil hat on me so it didn't happen again. And it's just so silly. And then there's also, in one of the like training things, one of the agents is like, okay, we need to conjure something for you to like practice using this attack on. Imagine something so horrible and so hideous that you must destroy it. And out pop these like really super extra ugly old school lamps. And he's like, oh, it's so tacky. I must get rid of it. It's just so silly. Oh, God. I think I already told Ryan this, but so... Our friend Ryan, who I know listens to the pod, like, if you're listening right now, fam, you should, it's right up your alley of humor. You will enjoy it very much. Outside of that, the gameplay, I mean, like, the only really negative I had to say is the gameplay feels a little dated, which is to be expected. And small stuff like the menus are kind of clunky and stuff like that. I was playing keyboard and mouse, which maybe isn't what I should have been doing. And maybe it's better on like a controller. But I didn't have any problems. And like I said, it's probably some of the most fun I've had with a game for the pod. Like, I want to keep playing it just because it's just super goofy and just really enjoyable. Weirdly, the second it booted up into the game, I just felt super nostalgic, even though I've never played this particular game before, just because it reminded me so strongly of games I played all the time as a kid, like Sly Cooper and Jack and Daxter and like Rayman 3 and SpongeBob Battle for Bikini Bottom, like all these in the same realm of like 3D action-y platformer kind of things. So yeah, it was really fun. I recommend it.
Oh, lovely.
So what'd you bring this week?
Sorry, I was in the middle of a yawn.
Worst possible timing.
So I played Armello, which is a game that you have played
Yes.
way back in the day. And by that, I mean like 2 years
I
ago.
was going to say not that far back.
Yeah. So it was developed by League of Geeks, which is an Australian company.
It's good. It's a good name for a company.
I know, I really like it. And it was released for Windows in 2015. Sounds like it was originally meant for like the iPad. And then there was like a...
Interesting.
Yeah, and then there was like a... oh my God, what do you call that? Where you raise the money to do the project.
Kickstarter?
Yes, and then there's like... I could not think of that word. There's like, Kickstarters and, like the kind of like green light situation
Yeah.
to get it all up and running.
Cool,
So,
cool.
2015, it was released. It is like a role-playing board game kind of
Yeah.
tabletop, like turn-based situation. And, okay, the gist of the game is that you are in the kingdom of Armello, and there's a king who's a lion, and he is infected by the rot, which is like this gross plague that kind of gradually corrupts your brain,
Sure.
makes you do evil things.
Sure.
So it's you plus 3 other characters. It's always like a 4-player game. So if you're playing single player, it's you against 3 AIs. And everyone is of a different clan. There's rabbit, wolf, bear, and rat clans. So there's one of each that you play. And it's basically a race for the throne or to cleanse the king of the rot.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different ways to win this game, and I'll get to that. But but your goal is in some way or another either cleanse the king of the rot or become the king or queen yourself.
Okay.
So I briefly mentioned clans already. Just wanted to also talk about how there's 8 characters to choose from, and there's like 2 for each clan. And each clan and character has their own kind of different stats and like advantages to certain things. So when you are playing the tutorial, I really liked the tutorial to this game actually, because it was kind of like they were not only building up all the complexities of the game, because there's a lot to this game. There's a lot of components to this game. So they were not only building that up, but they were doing it while they were introducing you to the 4 main types of clans and the things that they can do. So you
Okay.
start out as like a wolf from the wolf clan who's like more geared towards the fighting aspect of the game. So they introduce a lot of the stuff related to that. And then
Sure.
you do the rat stuff, which is more like trickery
Yeah.
and stealth stuff. And then you do the rabbit clan, which is really good for like adventuring and dungeons and stuff. And then you have the bear clan, which is I don't know, very spiritual, and I really like the Bear Clan, but like their gimmick, I guess, is just kind of like spiritualness.
Yeah. Because isn't that like one of the ways you can cure the rot or something like that? Is through
Yes,
like
spirit stones.
Spirit. Yeah, sure. It's been a
Yes.
hot second.
Yes. So, as I mentioned, there are multiple ways to win this game. You can, like the spirit stones, you can collect 4 spirit stones over the course of the game, and you can either get those. There's every once in a while one pops up at kind of what looks like a little mini Stonehenge, and you can travel to
Sure.
the little Stonehenge and get a spirit stone. Or every turn the king kind of makes something happen, and sometimes a spirit stone will appear elsewhere, or you might get a quest at the beginning of your turn where you can get a spirit stone. Multiple ways. So you can gather 4, make your way into the palace. If you do so successfully, you can cleanse the king, and then ta-da, game's over. You can win the game by slaying the king yourself and becoming the heir to the throne.
Sure.
You can, which is, this has happened all the times I've played my own game. I was just about to cleanse the king with the spirit stones, and then he died. and I still won, but because there are prestige points, which are tracked by killing other heroes, doing well at certain quests. There's different ways to get prestige points. So I guess I'll just go into that right now, the points. Aside from that being a metric by which you can win, it also determines whether or not you're like the king's right-hand man, so to speak. Because at the beginning of like every turn, the king takes the leader of prestige points, so it's going to be one of the 4 characters.
Yeah.
It could be you, it could be the AI.
Yeah.
And the king presents you with 2 types of like policies, and you get to choose one, and that'll be the mandate for that full day. So that's another reason why prestige points are good, because then you can kind of influence how gameplay goes.
Yeah. It might be worth explaining. So like the way the map is set up is it's like there's a corner that belongs to each of the clans,
Yes.
and that's where you like spawn in, and then in the middle is the castle, which is very heavily fortified, and that's where the king is.
Yeah, I'm
getting
there.
Okay.
It just wasn't really pertinent to what I was talking about yet.
Okay. Well, when we were talking about victory and stuff and going to the king and stuff, I was like, but how do we get there?
Right, but I was just talking about how to win. I'm not talking about gameplay yet.
I see.
I gotta get to the gameplay to talk
layers.
about. Yes.
It's like an onion.
Yes. So now we're getting into the layer that is the gameplay, where I can explain.
I see.
How the fuck it works. So, as I mentioned, it's kind of like a board game, and as Trent mentioned, each clan has their own corner of the board. That's your spawning point. So don't worry if you die. I mean, you lose prestige points. You lose some stuff if you die, but you're not like dead and out of the game completely. You respawn at your clan's starting point, and you can kind of start over.
Which I recall being sometimes a useful hack if you needed to cross the entire board just off yourself against something.
So you are on the outside. There's little towns that you can kind of like claim by standing on them, and that gives you some gold production, because you have to. Gold is a currency that you can use to like equip certain things. On the board, there's also forests, which give you stealth. There's mountains, which give you more defense. And then there are those weird Stonehenge things.
Sure.
And dungeons and swamps, which, when you land on them, makes you lose 1 health.
Yeah.
Yes. So that's kind of the general... Those are the game board, the board spots.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah.
And in the center is the palace, which is like... The palace is in the very, very center, but then there are a couple, like 4 other board spaces surrounding the palace, and then the palace walls. So in order to get to the king, you have to do kind of like a check to make sure you can even get past the palace walls. Maybe there will also be a Kingsguard guy there, and you have to fight him. Maybe not. Sometimes I've been lucky. So then once you get into the palace walls, that's all well and good. You still have another check to get into the palace.
Yeah.
Which is on like a whole separate turn.
Yeah.
So it's a lot to just get to the king, whether or not you want to kill him or cleanse him or whatever. It's effortful. So that's kind of the layout of the board. It's turn-based, and you have 3 like action points with which to move. So you can either move 3 spaces or sometimes 2, because going to a mountain costs 2 of those points.
Right.
So you just can go around and kind of adventure at your own will, depending on how you want to win the game. For me, I've gone the Spirit Stone route, because the whole thievery and trickery thing is not really my go-to.
Sure.
But you can, if you want, you can, choose to stealthily steal things from people and basically just become the most conniving person ever, and you can win that way. So say you run into another character, there's going to be combat.
Sure.
You have dice, and your dice pool, you kind of have a starting dice pool, but you can add to it depending on what's in your inventory. And your inventory is determined by cards that you get in the game. So not only are there dice, but there are also cards in this game. Like I said, it's a lot. There's a lot of components. So the cards kind of have three main categories: items, spells, or like trickery stuff. And there's this whole thing with like the different symbols that match kind of certain purposes on the die, and the cards, the symbols match certain things. So in some instances, like entering the palace, for example, you might have to do like a die roll, but in order to get into the palace, you need to match certain symbols that your die roll has. So if you say it needs like 2 shields and a sun, if you don't roll 2 shields and a sun, you're not getting in the palace.
Your big O SOL.
Yeah. So with combat, you have your dice pool that determines whether or not how much you attack and how much you block. Same with your opponent. And the cards, which can be inventory items or spells or whatnot, you can also discard to help out your dice pool a little bit, but then that means they go away forever. So you got to be smart about that. Huh. And then the cards as well, depending on their use, you can also use when you're moving around on the game board. You can use it against opponents. If it's a thing like steal an item from someone next to you, you can use the card on that. So there's a lot of abilities and items and things that affect pretty much everyone's experience of the game.
Yeah. I'm wondering, I don't know if you mentioned this yet, but this was, how do I explain this? So this is one of the characteristics that make this very replayable is the fact that you're on a strict time limit. And you kind of alluded to this in that the game ended before you could do what you want. So yeah, I remember when I would play it, I would find myself scrambling to suddenly swap my victory path in the last like 5 turns. Because, for example, maybe I was planning on killing the king, but someone was getting to the king first. I'm like, oh crap! Well, let me use everything at my disposal to slow them down, and then try and get the prestige victory instead, because I guess I'm in a good position to do that. Like, it leads to some really tense final moments, I found.
Yeah, so the king has health points, and so he is your time limit, because every day he uses one health goes away
To the rot.
So you have basically until he dies to win how you see fit.
Yeah.
I personally start a game and all the times I've played it, I have not thought to myself, this is how I want to win the game. I just kind of do things, and all the times I just happen to get a lot of spirit stones. So I'm like,
Interesting.
I guess I'm just going this route. But I don't care. Like, I was doing it, and like I would try to go to the king to do spirit stones, but if it seemed like I never once thought about if I was in a better position to do something else, because I was just like I don't care if I win or not. Like, like I'm just gonna like play this out and see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, I was never like, I'm gonna do this kind of victory when I started out, but like just in the last final rounds, there was a couple times where I had a plan, but then my plan was immediately thwarted, and I had to like scramble to come up with a different plan to...
Yeah, well, see, that's the thing is I had a plan, and my plan was thwarted, and I'm just like, well, whatever, I'll just keep going with my original plan, even if it won't work, because I don't care. I'm just like, whatever, if this doesn't work, it's fine, and I'll just keep trying, and I just I never had any energy to do something else.
Amazing.
So, like, I still have fun, though. Like, I was just like, these spirit stones, oh man, I kept getting borked the last game I played.
I never did the spirit stones. They were a pain in the ass.
Oh, they're so easy for me to get. All the times that I played, they would just walked right into me. Wow. It was great.
You're blessed.
I was blessed. But then I made it into the palace grounds. I made it into the wall. And then I like killed a Kingsguard. And then it kept spawning at the tile next to me. So I had like 3 Kingsguard fights in a row. Like, they just wouldn't stop because they kept spawning and would immediately come to fight me. And I only had like 2 health. So I was just getting lucky the first couple wins. And then finally I lost. And I was like, well, I could have won by cleansing the king because I was there. But Unfortunately, that didn't work out.
That's okay.
That's okay. Yeet. There's also, I wanted to mention the dungeons. The dungeons are cool. There are tiles on the board, and it just kind of, you can get certain buffs or gold or whatever. But these also creepy rot monsters called Banes. They look like giant, like, plagued crows. They kind of emerge from the dungeons, and they'll kind of, like, wander around and just be another thing to kill. But if you, like, get hit by them, then you can be affected by the rot. That's another thing of this game, is the rot doesn't just affect the king, it also can affect you. And you can let the rot, like, corrupt you on purpose. That's another way that you can do the game.
Yeah, isn't there like a victory where you become like the new rotted king?
Basically, yeah.
Nice.
So if that is what you want to do, by all means, get all that rot.
Get that rot. That sweet, sweet rot.
Yeah, so it's very, very interesting. I enjoyed the game. It's so complex. Like, when I was playing through the tutorial, and there's like 4 kind of levels to this tutorial, and it just kept adding more things and adding more things and adding more things. And I was like, this is a lot for me to keep track of. Some of it I still was not keeping track of at all, even when I was playing, because I was like, this is too much for me.
I was thinking as you were talking about like why I wonder they decided this game should be a video game instead of just making it a board game, because
it would be a really good board game.
It plays a lot like other board games we've played with our friends. And I'm wondering if the reason is it's slightly more accessible to learn in a digital format where they can do tutorials and they can provide
prologue,
you and they can provide you with more information throughout. Instead of having to, in a board game, you constantly check rules and debate with each other. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I would love to have this as like a physical copy. That would be so much fun. But like, I guess the way in which they teach you the game is very suitable for the video game.
Right. They do make good use of it being a video game. And my recollection is, because I mean, I played maybe, close to 10 rounds of Armello in my life. And like, I might go back and play one here or there, but it's not something I really seek. But I know a big part of the draw for people is they had online multiplayer matches, which is also really interesting. And obviously another advantage of it being a video game and not a board game.
Yeah. Oh man, I'd be terrified to play this online multiplayer, because I'm sure people just have insane strategies. I mean, a lot of it is probably luck of the draw, of what cards you get and items you get, but like, oof.
It'd be better than I've been playing Civilization with some friends online, and I'm just bad. And also like Civ games take like freaking like 10 hours or something like that. So I just am at a point where I'm like, I know I'm doing awful. I'm just going to ride it out.
Yeah.
I'm just along for the ride. If I win, whatever. If I don't, well, I'm not going to win, because one of my friends is like, this is something he does, is play competitive Civ with his other friends. So I'm like,
yeah.
But Armello, games take like an hour and a half? 2 hours maybe? Do them in one sitting.
Yeah.
Not
very
too
doable.
many things. Mm-hmm. It's nice.
You get to role play how you want.
Yeah. You can be that sexy fox you always wanted to. I mean, wolf you always wanted to be.
Exactly. Yeah.
I messed up my bit.
I went for the rabbit and the bear. I was fucking killing it as the bear. I was annihilating people. Like, when you roll your dice in combat and you determine how much attack you get, I had so much attack on one roll that it'll be like hit, maybe like killing blow for when you've exceeded the hit points
you
on
do the
your
murder.
opponent. Then there's like overkill. And then after that, there's annihilation. I reached the annihilation. I got so much attack points.
You were literally annihilated.
Yeah, it was.
Oh my God.
It was excellent.
Yeah, I would always do wolf and rat. I think were my top picks. I suppose there's nothing stopping me from just playing the rat and not going the thievery route. But for some reason, I'm just associating the rat with like the trickery thing. So I'm like, no, I'm never playing the rat. But it doesn't matter. Too close to stealth gaming,
I guess. My nemesis.
No.
Yeah, that's Armello. Sorry that it was so complicated, but like, hot damn, it's a complicated game. Which is why I tried to get at what you actually do in the beginning.
That's fair. That's totally fair. Yeah, I didn't mean to harsh your mellow. I was like, I don't know. I just kept expecting you to explain certain things, and then you would just keep going. And I was like, is she ever gonna like?
Yeah, I just wanted to explain what the point of the game was before I got to the intricacies of the game. Because
Sure.
imagine if I spent 20 minutes talking about the dice and the cards and the table, and I haven't even told you what you're supposed to even be doing yet.
Oh man.
What would you rate Psychonauts?
Honestly, for Psychonauts, like, it's not a perfect game or a perfect experience, mostly just because, some of the platforming and, like, action elements of it haven't aged super well and things like that. But, like,
Sure.
God, is it just stupid and fun, and I'm a big like in it. So I'm going to give it 9 purple arrowheads out of 10.
Wow, high score.
Yeah, what about you? What would you rate Armello?
I think 8 out of 10 spirit stones.
Respectable.
Yeah, like it, not amazing, but a fun strategy board game thing. Yeah.
Seems reasonable.
Yeah,
That's what it is.
exactly. So that's it for this episode. The next episode will be in 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So just don't expect us next week.
If you come knocking, we're not going to be
We're
around.
not going to be around.
Not going to answer. To send you on your way.
But when we do come back, I will be talking about Heavy Bullets, which is a game that Trent would absolutely hate. It's like a roguelike first person.
Oh, God.
Gross. Yeah.
My nightmare.
Yeah.
Oh, no. And I will be playing Pac-Man Championship
Hell
Edition DX.
DX. Oh, this will be... This is going to be a wild episode.
gonna be a
Probably a
weird
short
one.
episode, too, I'd imagine.
Yeah, how much can I say about Pac-Man? Like, I'm ready for this specific edition of Pac-Man to blow my fucking brains out, but
Yeah.
it's Pac-Man.
We'll see.
Goodness.
Yeah. Follow us on the socials. We are on Twitter and Instagram at IFIOT Podcast.
Yeah.
There's an occasional Twitch stream at I Forgot I Own That Pod.
Yes, that sounds accurate.
Sure, it's also in the description, so if I said it wrong, check the description. It's there. I played Cook Serve Delicious, the most recent stream, because honestly, I'm obsessed with that game, and I'll probably still be playing that. So just keep an eye on the socials for whenever I'm streaming, and rate us on the Apple Podcasts, because
Nice
that's
touch.
a thing.
Excellent touch.
Gotta put in that review and them stars. Them 5 stars would be excellent, but if you're really not feeling the 5 stars, that's okay. I'll still respect you.